Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
So many of us these days are going through challenges. We're being pushed. We're being tested with our lives in general. Just your life, just getting by can be a challenge, especially when it comes to your mental health. Got somebody here today that's going to help us out with that. And not only does she, with her business, Goddess Health and Wellness, offer mental health services and wellness services, but also sexual health and education to make sure it's a full capacity in terms of wellness. And she works with many people in many different levels. We're going to learn more today about her. She is wonderful. Conswello Davis joins us on the program. How are you?
I'm good, Steve. Thank you.
So even before we get into who you help and what you help them with, what's your background?
Oh, okay. So my background is when I started in as a teenager in customer service, right? And moved into the airline industry, as well as I've been a paralegal.
Wow.
And now I'm in the mental health space. So I've worn different hats throughout my lifespan here.
And for doing what you're doing right now, you soon to be a doctor of clinical sexology. Do I have that right?
Yeah, correct.
And in terms of the mental health thing, you're certified as I'm not sure the type of yoga instructor, but I know you do yoga, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Counseling, therapy, certifications, what do we have there?
Yes. Okay. So right now I'm practicing as a mental health professional in the state of Florida. And then I am a certified comedic yoga instructor. And
Wow.
it's based on the hieroglyphs and the different poses and postures that you see in the ancient structures in Kemet, or what they call now Egypt.
So I'm going to just go right there.
Okay.
Anytime we talk about sexual health, sometimes there's, people just kind of be quiet a little bit, or it's that they get uncomfortable. I want to ask you, what motivated you to study that and want to help others?
I see the need in the society first and foremost, because even when you look at the stats with women, generally, right, the entire population or demographics, it is a societal ill that not only, I must say, not only affect women, but are also affecting men. And so in that, I think one of the things that we don't do in this society is talk about sex as a part of our human development and make it more normalized, where people can understand what is happening with their bodies. And as well as we age, things happen with our bodies, and sexual health and wellness. And sexual wellness is health, right? It can be good for you and very positive, and I do feel like in our society there's a lot of negativity surrounding sexual health and wellness and reproduction. So that is the reason why I'm motivated to kind of help educate people so that they are understanding what is happening with their bodies, but also how we can begin to alleviate these societal ills that come from sexual assault, sexual abuse, and then as well embrace our sexual wellness at the same time.
Sure. Many times people just view it as an act, but forget about the mental health aspect of it in terms of the closeness, the relationship, all of that comes along with it. Sometimes that's bypassed. And that's, that's in your wheelhouse in terms of helping people with their mental health, connecting it to their sexual health.
Right, exactly. Because if we don't think, most people don't think about it, but mental health is 365 days of the year, 24/7, right? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that is mental. It starts all in your mind. I've heard many of women say, you know what, I'm not sexually active or connected to my partner because they're not mentally stimulated. And when we understand that our brain houses our reproductive system, as well as those neurotransmitters and things of that nature in the brain and in the stomach, right? Mm-hmm. So it all connects. We can't get around it.
What are some things that people do where they make a mistake involving their physical relationships with others, or maybe the misconceptions that maybe we have. Any thoughts there? I know it's a very broad question, but I'm kind of curious.
Well, yes, when we're engaging with others and we feel that connection or intimacy, I will say it's not necessarily always got to be a physical act, right? It is being able to talk to someone and communicate in a way that also can be sexually arousing. You see where I'm going?
Sure.
And then also the fact that people think that intimacy has to involve intercourse.
Right.
Not necessary. You can touch, affection. A great deal of people love affection, right? Or knowing they're appreciated, or even a hug makes a huge difference.
Huge difference. And there can be, without going into detail, you could have closeness with somebody, even just holding them, and you're both vibing the same thing at that moment, where it can be just as fulfilling, maybe if not more, than the actual act of sex.
Yes, and that's why now I'm not certified in tantric sex yet, but that is something that I'm looking to engage.
I wasn't even going there. I was just talking what you just said, the physical act. Sometimes maybe you don't need to,
No,
and
no. You're
and,
correct.
right.
And that's a part of tantric sex. And it's also something we do as clinical sexologists. We have exercises for couples or partners that it's all about just touch and learning what your partner likes and responds to via touch.
Exactly. Okay. So let's go to the mental health aspect when you help and you coach. The Black American community, you also work with, you super serve there. But do you work with everybody?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I say the Black community because that's my major demographic. It's a part of my community. So, and then also I work with them because of the sexual assault and the historical intergenerational traumas that are experienced via sexual assault in the community. But I work with everyone. I don't have a problem with that. Anyone that needs help regarding whether it's sexual health and wellness, or even just the regular, what I say, mental incapacities that we go throughout our lifetime, whether it's anxiety, depression, anything along those lines. I'm here for that. Yes.
Let's talk about the trauma aspect. We talked about somebody potentially suffering sexual trauma and abuse and things like that, which is something that you help with as well. Traumas in general. Is that something you work somebody through?
Yes. I am now trained. I utilize eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which is EMDR. I utilize that as a modality of therapy to treat trauma, as well as cognitive processing therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy is more of a general, but going in depthly. Those are two modalities that I utilize on the regular. Right now, I'm completing my dissertation where I involve the Kemetic yoga to see how Black women respond to it that have had traumatic experiences, after looking at some research, as well as we know about the body keeps the score. So I was attempting to learn and broaden that spectrum and healing in the community.
When we talk about those traumas, specifically, what are we looking at? Are you somebody that also realizes or feels that it could be a trauma when you're 5 years old and you just heard something that might not have even been for you? I mean, traumas, there's a lot of big ones out there, but even the other ones that limit us from doing things. Are we talking about that as well?
Yes, we are. Because remember now, we know that people that witness or even hear about traumatic experiences of loved ones end up also experiencing the trauma. It's called vicarious or secondary trauma. Even for me doing this work, I have to make sure I protect myself in doing this work and hearing the stories and the experiences of individuals where I too can suffer from vicarious or secondary trauma.
How do you work
Yes.
somebody through some of that stuff?
Okay. Well, like with right now, I can give you an example of a particular patient that I worked with. She is about 67 years old, went through continuous trauma as a young girl at 12, 13 years old, raped, sexually assaulted. Then again, later in life, married, and the husband was abusive, also raped and assaulted. And so she went into the church thinking that that was a part of her healing, right? And then comes one day, she's triggered and she realizes that, you know what? I'm not healed. So we came together, or we worked together, and I was able to help her to see patterns, right? There's patterns there where she was just functioning in trauma, and in functioning in that trauma was still selecting individuals that were abusing her. You see where I'm going?
Yes.
And then as we were beginning to work through those memories and those experiences with the EMDR, it elevated and we are able, alleviated, and we were able to process those experiences so that she could have a different perspective, and not hold on to that. And two, remove it out of the body where she's housing it and holding on to it.
EMDR. I'm glad you
Yeah.
brought that up. I want you to explain that, and also some of the other treatment modalities that you might use to help somebody.
Sure. I am a proponent of EMDR because with the eye movement, which is what we call the bilateral stimulation, there we use our hands, right? And it's a part of the bilateral stimulation, or you can tap someone. But basically, we take the memories and we do take you back into the particular event, the stressful event. And from there, we utilize the BLS to bring up that adaptive processing of that information so that you can be desensitized and not triggered over time from that. If you're in another space and someone says something and then all of a sudden you're taken back into that experience, and then you're re-traumatizing yourself. And then along with that, after we are desensitized, we kind of reprocess that event so that you're not still looking at it from the perspective that you are living it again. So that's one of the things I love about EMDR. And it's been thus far, I think it's been really successful with individuals. I've had individuals, after we do 3 or 4 sessions, you know what? We have a future template. They're good. They don't even need they feel like they don't need the future template. But the other modalities that I use is cognitive processing therapy. And CPT is basically where you kind of like still just talk about your experience. And we find different things in the experience to help you process, even, and then it's basically processing it over time. The only thing different between CPT and EMDR is that I do believe with EMDR, it's a little bit quicker in helping people facilitate their healing of their trauma.
And EMDR, what does that stand for again?
It's eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing.
Is that similar to tapping?
You know what? I do believe it is. However, the only thing that with tapping, right, you're tapping different points of meridians on the body, is what I understand. With EMDR, we're utilizing our hands, or we may use an instrument, or we can tap, but we are focusing on the memory. And what we're doing is activating the left and the right side of the brain to pull the memory up and then process it.
When the memory comes back, and I'm asking this question because I want people to better understand it and not be afraid.
Yes.
Is it the memory that's going to upset you? You know, maybe that trauma is a bad one. Are we bringing that back? Are we confronting that? How does that all look?
Yes. When I say reliving it, we're basically taking you back into that experience. So therefore, you're going to not only see everything that it happened or happened in that moment, you're also going to feel it in your body. We cannot disconnect our mind or our brain from our body, right? Because we know that the brain's connected to the spinal cord. The spinal cord runs throughout the body with all the nerve endings. So whatever you think, most times I like to teach this, that if you have thought, most likely you're going to have some emotions and feelings. Therefore, you're going to have some actions and behaviors as the end of the equation. So with the EMDR, we are attempting to get the mind and the body aligned with the experience and process it all as one.
Yeah, it sounds like almost like hypnotherapy, but it's not.
Exactly. You're correct.
Okay.
And most people, the thing I think the difference between hypnotherapy and EMDR, we don't have you to go straight back into the unconscious mind. You're in the conscious, right? And the unconscious or the subconscious. So we take you back into it, but you're still here in the present moment with us. And one of the things I have known that people experience is it's like you're on a train and you're looking as like it's a movie, and you're seeing yourself in this movie and what's happening, but you're still outside of it.
And that's happening during what?
During the processing.
Wow. Because I've done hypnotherapy before.
Okay.
And like anybody else, you have all these, the questions as to, you're going to control my mind and all that. I got past all that. It's all a myth. We all know.
Yeah.
But I did see what you said. And it's interesting. I knew right away. Take me back to my childhood. Not that it was that bad, but I know that there's things there, like probably most of us, if not all of us, that pilot us now. So I just said, yeah, take me back there. Let me see. It was like watching a movie. Like I saw
Yes.
myself, like it's almost up on the screen. Um, a little emotional at times, and things, pop up. I gotta say, I didn't see things that I hadn't seen before in my mind going back. I didn't see like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that existed. It was all there, but maybe it was more clarity. And EMF people tell me about that all the time. Like it's so beneficial. Like so many people should be doing it.
Yes. You just made a great point. Most people don't understand that our past influences our present. And if we don't deal with it in the present, it affects our future. And yes, and that is something.
We could go for hours and people I know, relationships, and some of them are, I don't want to minimize anything, but in my journey, textbook. Like I see, people I've been involved with and why they act the way they do, knowing where they came from. No judgment, no judgment. I deal in facts. Those are the facts that happen then. You could have been 8 years old. And I'm not talking about major trauma. I'm talking about life.
Yes.
And you act a certain way now. I call it connecting the dots. We have connected the dots, and that's why it's happening. But many people don't realize it. I know why I act the way I do. I can go back to my childhood. I can tell you, parents got divorced when I was young, got bullied as a kid, but I've overcome a lot of stuff. Even in the last like 3 years, I've learned a lot from people like you.
Thank you. Look at that.
Oh, it's
we like to say patterns and themes, right?
Okay.
When we're able to show you a pattern and there's a constant theme that is going on in your life, and you want to change some things, that's where it comes from, And I attempt to break it down with people and try to work through steps, right? In moving forward in the way that they want and desire.
And patterns, how about call it classic. where you always get into the same types of relationships. You know, you hear women say, why do I always attract that kind of guy? What is going on? Why? Because you do. and it's like you're transmitting a signal out there that if you believe in energy, you're transmitting something out there and it's being
It's
received.
gravitating.
And you
Yeah.
might not even know. Let's say, for example, a guy always attracts women with anxiety.
Hmm.
Let's say, yeah, they all women. That guy says, and this is my friend, by the way, is like everybody I deal with, they all have anxiety. I don't understand what it is. Why are they? Well, maybe it has something to do with him. Maybe his mother was very, very anxious. I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know the history there. And maybe he feels more comfortable in connecting with somebody that has a
Hmm.
lot of anxiety. Who knows? But it's definitely something from his past. There's something there.
Yes. And I tell people, or I like to educate people that, you know what, you are the director of your and actor in your movie. You get to write the script. So if you want to rewrite the script, you got to know what is not working, what does work, or what you would like to change so that you can have that movie that you would like to have
Yeah.
for later or to give and pass down to your children,
Oh,
things of
yeah.
that nature.
Well, we're out of time, but I want to go back to what you just said. You write the script for your life. You do. It's like a movie. You may be writing it and not even knowing that you're writing it, but you can also rewrite it. That's
Yeah.
with your help. That's the most important part. If these things are going on in your life, if you're seeing the same people show up, you're not succeeding in life, you think that you can't make a lot of money, you can. You can. You have a belief that's holding you back from making that happen. It's there, and it probably came from your childhood. I hate to say it. That's the truth.
Yes, when you look at a great deal of things that people come in for in mental health, now don't get me wrong, there are certain things that do happen in the present that will trigger other things. It's a kind of snowball effect. But at the same time, we have the opportunity now to say, let me take a step back. Let me look and reflect. Everyone has to reflect on their lives, right? And what they want, what they don't want, or what they want to change. So,
Right.
yes.
How do we get in touch with you, Consuelo?
Sure, you can reach me at my email. It is goddesshwell at gmail.com. That is GODDESSHWELL at gmail.com. My website is goddesshwell.com, same as my email. And then you can give me a call at 754-300-7591.
Refreshing is the word that comes to mind in talking with you.
Oh, it's been delightful with you too.
Your passion is amazing, and for things that some feel it's a delicate topic to talk about sexual health. In talking with you, your energy is just so out there and open, and I think most people wouldn't have a fear of opening up to somebody like you. So that you're rare. That's all I'm going to say. You're rare.
Okay. Well, you know what? You are just affirming and confirming I am in the space that the higher power wants me to be in and fulfilling my passion
Mm-hmm.
and my goals in this lifetime, in this journey
Mm-hmm.
on the earth. So I appreciate that.
Oh,
Thank you.
I appreciate you and what you do and the interesting niches that you do it in. Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Talk to you later.
You too. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.